Welcome to Experiment Scary. There's a case in Europe that never made the news. It was never discussed in any forum. It never appeared on the internet, not because there wasn't any evidence, but because all the evidence was lost. Erased, disappeared, attempted to make it never exist. The case of Elizabeth Moreau, the wife of a high-ranking European official, a noble woman with an impeccable reputation, a beautiful face that seemed to never age. A woman who disappeared in ways that cannot be explained by human reason. I wasn't supposed to know this story, but the documents I read, the recordings I found, and the hidden testimony all weave together a story no one ever wanted to hear. And tonight I'm going to read it to you. No sound effects, no added visuals, just words and imagination. Because in this case, imagination alone is enough to keep you awake. Her full name was Elizabeth Adrienne Moreau, the wife of a wealthy, influential, and well-connected minister of the economy. Elizabeth lived in a small palace, an old noble house dating back to the 18th century. Everyone knew her as a graceful woman who always looked impeccable. Her skin was clear, her hair shiny, and her voice soft. But the pressure of being an official's wife wasn't easy. Every day she was judged by her appearance. Every time she appeared in public, the media talked about her body, her face, and her age. At 43, she began to fear the inevitable aging. She became obsessed with maintaining her beauty. Until one day, she met an Asian healer at a diplomatic event, a mysterious man who offered her a rare herbal concoction. It was said to be an elixir of youth from the forests of Southeast Asia, which, according to legend, renews the body from within. Elizabeth was tempted. The potion was secretly delivered to her home. No notes, no invoices, no medical records. And this is where the tragedy begins. On the first day, Elizabeth felt lighter and fresher. On the second day, her skin felt smoother. On the third day, something changed. Her personal attendant noticed fine, root-like lines emerging beneath the skin of her hands. Not veins, not wrinkles, but something like thin, living plant roots. Her scent also began to change. From the scent of flowers to wet earth, she began to feel thirsty, not for water, but for the moisture of the soil. She often grabbed a handful of garden soil, squeezed it, and inhaled deeply. She called it soothing. Her husband thought it was just stress, but the changes became more frequent. At night, Elizabeth began scratching at her skin. She said something was growing underneath, like tiny roots creeping from the depths toward the surface. On the seventh day, the maid who was helping her dress suddenly fainted. She simply fell. The maid's body was found, appearing to have dehydrated within minutes. Her skin was wrinkled, her face sunken, as if she had lost all her body fluids. The house began to panic. But Elizabeth, she actually felt much better afterward. Her husband, eager to avoid a scandal, called a private doctor. The doctor took a blood sample from Elizabeth and immediately realized something was wrong. Her blood cells contained root-like structures, like fungal hyphae, like plant tissue, something that shouldn't live in the human body. The doctor was forbidden to speak, but he secretly recorded a voice message, which I later read from the original transcript. Her body was no longer just human. There was living plant tissue inside, and they were growing. The doctor disappeared the next day. This is the hardest part to tell. On the 11th day after taking the potion, Elizabeth could no longer stand upright. Her spine was curved. Her skin began to crack, revealing dark brown roots beneath the surface. Her hair turned into long, wet strands of roots. Her eyes lost their color. Her irises looked like moist, shifting earth. Then, her face began to split open. Not horribly split open like a movie monster. No, this was more organic. The face opened like a flower petal, revealing a dark cavity filled with fine roots that moved slowly as if searching for something. Something to eat, something to absorb, something as nourishment. This is where Elizabeth officially disappeared. Not disappeared from the house, but disappeared as a person. All that remained was the Root Queen. Anyone who approached her, touched her, or even came into contact with the shadow of the roots that spread from her body, immediately weakened. The palace guards were found as dried up as mummies. The household assistants disappeared without a trace. A journalist who attempted to enter the house was found 2 days later, his body reduced to skin and bones. Elizabeth's roots spread all over the floor of the house, break through the stone wall, enter the drainage system. He is no longer a human who needs to walk. It is now a living root, and the house becomes his new body. Her husband disappeared. There was no record of his whereabouts. But witnesses reported hearing the man screaming in the basement before everything went silent. When the last investigator arrived on the scene, he reported something truly terrifying. The large roots in the basement had what appeared to be human body parts embedded in them. Like someone being absorbed slowly, someone who was once human. The house is now empty. The electricity is cut off. All access is blocked. But I know something. Those roots aren't staying still. They're creeping underground, towards the city sewers, towards the public parks, towards the roots of the trees of that great European city. And as I read that document for the last time, I heard a faint sound coming from the floor of my own house. Like something creeping, like roots looking for new nutrients.